Hello, my name is Gia Maria Ponte. I am in Cicero, Illinois, in my house with my grandmother, and I'm going to ask her some questions about her life in the 1950s. So, Grandma, can you tell me how your childhood was like?
I grew up in a small town in Texas. It was very quiet town. Everybody knew everybody, and we all got along.
Can you describe the neighborhood you grew up in?
The neighborhood that I grew up, Saturdays and Sundays we would make parties, and everybody would get together, or they would make dances, and we all got along.
And can you tell me what was the name of the small town you lived in? You grew up in?
I grew up in San Benito, Texas. That's a small town in Texas on the south.
And if you can recall, who did you know or who grew up around there with you?
My neighbor's her name was Bertha. Her brother was Tony and Francis.
Say her name. No.
Alicia, Christina. Those were my friends that I usually hang around with.
And do you still see them today, or have heard any recent news about them lately?
Actually, the one that I really talk to, her name is Francis. We always keep in contact. She lives in California, and I live right here in Chicago. She's the only one that I keep in contact since we were in elementary school.
And another question I want to ask you is that can you tell me about how my great grandparents were like? Your mom and dad.
Well, actually, my dad died when I was 5 years old, and my mom, well, she was a very nice lady. She was very good. She raised my brother and me up the right way.
And can you tell me how did you and your brother get along in the household?
My brother and me, we always got along just fine. He was always taking care of me. If he would see me crying, he would ask me why was I crying. I would tell him. And then we would talk about it, and that was it. We would just get along just good.
But also, can I also ask you if you are comfortable? How did my great grandfather die?
My father died in a car accident. I was 5 years old at that time. We were living in Toledo, Ohio, and he used to work for the railroad tracks.
While growing up in the 1950s, can you tell me how today's society is different than yours in the 1950s? Like, what would you see around your areas that's like different from today's what you will see today?
Well, actually, like being born like in a small city and in being in Texas, actually we would always use like cowboy boots, Levi's, and a blouse. Not
And
unless we go to a party, then we would use skirts and a dress.
and can you also tell me what you will see back then that that you do not see at all today?
Okay, back then, from San Benito going to Houston, Texas, we would make stops at the gas stations. and there were water fountains right there that it would say white only and blacks only.
And how did that made you feel about seeing those discriminating signs?
Well, back then I wasn't thinking about that because back then I was not even a teenager yet. But now thinking about it now, I don't think that was right for them to be doing that because I believe that all of us are the same.
And yeah, like we're all equal. Um, Thank you for sparing the time with me to talk to me about your life growing up.